All right, we are back again. The 40 under 40 Catalyst Award. Can you please introduce yourself for us?
Latifat Okara.
Awesome. And where are you calling in from, Latifat?
Today I'm calling from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria.
Excellent, wonderful. So as a brief introduction, Latifat is a public health consultant at the World Bank, also founder and CEO of Num Num Babies. But I won't take away your thunder. I will let you go into two of those different steps. Tell us a little bit more about
Okay. Hi, Dr. Candice. Can you hear me very clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Latifat Okara. I am a global health specialist, public health specialist, and a member of the American Society of Nutrition. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Microbiology and a Master's of Public Health degree from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health in Boston. I am currently a DRPH candidate in health policy and leadership from Loma Linda University in California, and I also I'm the founder of Nom Nom Babies Food Company, which is a baby food company that provides nutrition education, complementary feeding education, outreaches to underserved families in different parts of Nigeria. And I'm also a health, nutrition, and population global practice consultant at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. So I majorly have expertise in primary healthcare, nutrition, health system strengthening, and health policy as well. Very passionate about health system strengthening, helping mothers in underserved population live healthy lives, and also helping babies fulfill their true potential through nutrition knowledge and nutrition products as well. So it's a great pleasure to be here today.
That's wonderful. And can you tell us, I guess, in brief, your public health journey to be a consultant at the World Bank and then also founding Baby?
Great, awesome. So I think I'll just give you how I even got into public health space in the first place. So I started my career 12 years ago with one of the largest oil and gas producing companies in Nigeria called Chevron. And I worked there as a water treatment analyst and then later advanced to work as a senior health, environment, and safety specialist within the organization. And so within this role, I was doing a lot of safety procedures, implementing safety procedures, standard operating procedures for emergency response, occupational health, and also compliance assurance, ensuring that the company is compliant to government regulations as well as process safety regulations. However, in 2017, I became a mom, got married, and I became a mom. And I identified a gap in healthy food access for children in Nigeria. And I was determined to demonstrate the influence of diet quality on on the influence of diet quality on health using organic food. So I ventured into entrepreneurship, founded Nom Nom Babies, a nutrition education company, like I said earlier, where we teach well, till date, we've taught over 400 mothers, helping them to recognize nutritional needs of weaning babies and promote complementary feeding in low and middle income settings in Nigeria. So it was in doing this work that I got interested in understanding what public health was, and I moved to Harvard in 2019 to study public health and major in nutrition and global health. And so over time, I've also volunteered in primary health centers where I organize nutritional awareness programs for families with malnourished children, coaching the mothers on age appropriate staple recipes using local recipes for weaning babies. And I also produce infant cereals and purees that I distribute for free at these outreaches. And so at the World Bank, I provide technical inputs within the World Bank Nutrition portfolio and also the Primary Healthcare Performance Initiative portfolio. And I do this through country operations, country engagements, and also global engagements work. I currently work in countries in Africa like the Gambia, Nigeria. I've done some work in Ghana, in South Asia region, like in Bhutan, and also in the Pacific Islands, and really working with the Ministry of Health in these places to improve the performance of the primary healthcare system through mixed methods, evaluation, assessments, using World Bank primary healthcare performance initiative tools to understand a country's primary healthcare system, and also providing key policy recommendations that would help policymakers to make the necessary changes to improve their primary healthcare system. So that's my work at the World Bank. And then within the nutrition team, within the nutrition space in the World Bank, I also lead a couple of nutrition projects around universal health coverage and understanding how to leverage antenatal care services to improve nutrition counseling, and also understanding how countries who have been successful in doing this, and how understanding what methods and what lessons we can learn, other countries can learn from the work that they've done. And I do this through a lot of case studies as well. So that's it in a nutshell. So I'll stop here and see if you have any questions, or if you want to, get any clarification.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of really great stuff to unpack there. So let's start with Num Num Babies and you founding that and focusing on nutritional education. Of all the different things that you become passionate about, why nutrition? There's so many different things within public health, and obviously you do more of an assortment of things as a consultant at the World Bank. But what was it about nutrition in particular that you felt like you wanted more?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question, and I think I hear that a lot from a couple of people. And as a child, I was labeled a picky eater, and where I come from, facial scarifications are a very common thing for treating kids with regular illnesses, and so because I was a picky eater, and I excuse me, I was um, I was also told that, so I got that facial scarification, and somehow it affected my, growing up. I just wasn't sure what that was, and it affected my self esteem in a way. And so when I had my kids, I was very committed to making sure that I kind of like bridged that gap that I felt was a challenge for me when I was growing up. And so when I had my first daughter, Kara, who is currently 5, I started researching, recipes, because I went to the store and realized that we had, the stores were filled with so many processed foods and a lot of baby foods with a lot of additives, sugars, added sugars, and I wasn't quite sure what it was, like the content of the foods. So I decided to, explore our local staples. And I started researching recipes and the kind of nutrients that babies need from 6 months after breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding. And so I got more interested in doing this. I enjoy cooking a lot too, I must say. So combining recipes was kind of my soft spots, and my baby really embraced it. So she enjoyed it. She had a variety of fruits and vegetables. And so it was in doing this work I would share my experience online on social media with a couple of mothers. And I realized that a lot of women were struggling with this as well, especially first time moms. And so I started educating them, sharing these free recipes online, the methods of preparation online. And with increased knowledge in baby foods and just nutrition, I realized that the developmental stages of a child relies heavily on the type of foods that they eat. And that struck me, because you see a lot of adults struggling in their as they grow up, and struggling in their adulthood, and you'll be wondering, okay, so what could they have done differently, like struggling to learn, struggling to concentrate or in studies. And of course, we know how that automatically affects their earning potential. So just really thinking about it holistically, and how you can also help like the next generation by attending to the needs of children from very early on, and using nutrition to avert sicknesses or nutrition related ailments, and improving the developmental stages of children. And so that's kind of like really why I got interested in it. One, so for the benefit, and also for the fact that a lot of women are struggling, a lot of first time moms and even multiple time moms are struggling with this knowledge. There's a knowledge gap, especially in this part of the world. And so it's really having that burden in my heart to be able to give back and help as much as I can, was really why I went into the field of nutrition.
Wow, that's such a powerful story, from you having the scarification, happen because of being a picky eater to just the things the parallels you saw in your own path to being a mother with other people around you. I noticed in your bio that you mentioned that food preferences can be affected by a number of things, racial discrimination, cultural beliefs, amongst others. Can you talk a little bit about that? Knowing that some of the audience may be lay people, and may not realize, that food preferences can be driven by a number of different things.
Oh, yes. So food preferences, can be, first of all, I have to say that you can shape the food preference of a child only from very early on. That's what I believe. I believe it's from very early on. If you want a child to start getting used to fruits and vegetables, you better start early. It's difficult for a lot of adults to start, getting very used to eating fruits, add the right amount of fruits and vegetables every day, because most times you're just not used to it from day one. And so when it comes to um, there are a lot of social determinants of health generally, and one of it can even be education. And so educational differences and inequities in a society can affect a child's food preference at the end of the day. So a child who's being raised by an uneducated mother doesn't fully the first of all, the mother has some gap in knowledge around what the baby should be eating, and even when they do know, they do not have the funds or the resources to afford such healthy food is expensive in Nigeria. And so mothers who are or families, not mothers, fathers can also be very involved. So families who are underserved, who are in the low income class, you tend to see that they they clearly cannot afford the adequate number of fruits and vegetables that babies need, or that children need. And so those differences, those inequities tend to affect the types of food that the child, craves for or requests for, or can even eat at the end of the day. So you'd see, like in my outreaches in underserved families, some babies do not eat apples, not because they don't like apples, just because they've never tasted it. And so, or they've never tasted strawberries, or spinach, or so they're just used to the staple carbohydrate foods that a 6 months old shouldn't exactly be consuming. And so that's what I mean by, there are a lot of social determinants of health that can tend to affect food preferences for the lack of exposure. Because of the lack of exposure, the child tends to, like certain foods compared to others that are healthier for him or her, because um, she's that's what she's been exposed to, or that's what he or the child has been exposed to. So it's important, when addressing when addressing healthy foods or nutrition in children, to take into account the different factors that can come into play. So beyond just advising families that your baby needs a certain amount of fruits and vegetables, is important to take into account the different social determinants of health facing that family. You need to look at the income level. You need to look at the education level, even access to fruits and vegetables, or access to healthy food options tend to then affect the child's preference over time because of the lack of exposure.
Yeah, what an absolutely thorough answer. And just thinking about the social determinants of health, especially around nutrition choice. And I agree wholeheartedly. It is almost an intractable issue once those food preferences are set early on. I wanted to go back to your being a consultant at the World Bank, and you talked about a number of policy recommendations that you helped. With some of my other interviewees, we've talked about the good, bad, and the ugly of getting policy out there. I'd love you to share with us some of the good, bad, and the ugly of your policy recommendations while you've been with the World Bank.
Great. Thanks for that question. So some of the, policy recommendations that we make, a lot of them come from lessons learned from countries that are doing well in whatever topic that we're addressing. So say, for instance, we're looking at the topic of nutrition, right? And we're looking at how nutrition can be prioritized or nutrition interventions can be prioritized in a country's health plan, right? So we've seen a couple of countries, for instance, Peru, and you see how Peru they're very they've done so well in reducing the problem of stunting. Stunting is when a child is too short for her age, and so we've seen that in Peru, for instance, some of the policy recommendations that they had to make, we see there was a very strong leadership support. We saw a very strong use of community health workers, and we saw that there was also an empanelment system in the primary healthcare system. So where which increased access. So increasing access for mothers to go into a primary healthcare system, and you have a multidisciplinary team of a nutritionist, a medical doctor, a nurse, and at the same time, someone who is knowledgeable in other areas of health, say like someone that can perform screening for NCDs. So when the mother goes into the primary health center, it's like a one-stop shop. So she's being screened for any chronic diseases. She has a nutritionist who can provide nutrition counseling. Her weight is being measured. She's being advised on about the foods that she needs to eat. So those are some of the policy recommendations that we've seen that has worked in a couple of countries, especially the use of community health workers. A couple of countries have adopted it. So like in Ethiopia, for instance, they have a very strong community health workers network. And so with the use of community health workers, they are able to get into the nooks and crannies of the communities. And this is where we find majority of the population, especially the underserved population, who ordinarily would not be exposed to the knowledge that they need for a healthier life, and also ordinarily might not be, not see the need, except there is an emergency to go into a primary health center for, regular checkups and to get the information that is required. And so when you have a very good system, when a country has in its primary healthcare policy to have and also have trained community health workers, we see that there's a lot of improvement in increasing access to care. And so those are just one of it. So the use of community health workers, having a very strong political commitment, and also having funding as well through innovative financing mechanisms. So there was this paper that we wrote recently that I wrote with a couple of authors from the bank recently on positioning nutrition in the global universal health coverage agenda. And that can be done in using health financing levers like revenue raising. We want to understand how is revenue being raised in the country. So, and there are also recommendations that we can give to policymakers around it. So revenue raising, how do you pool funds, pooling of revenue, and also purchasing. What should you even buy with the funds that are being raised in the country? So Costa Rica, for instance, is another country that has shown tremendous improvement in its primary health center. They have at least 98% of the population has universal health coverage. And I think I was listening to one documentary recently where they mentioned that Costa Rica, a citizen of Costa Rica spends a maximum of $26 a year on out-of-pocket expenses. So you can begin to imagine how has the country been able to do that, and how can other countries who are looking to improve their healthcare access, and quality of the healthcare system. How can they um, take some of the lessons that are learned? First of all, it starts with a good leadership. It starts with a good, a strong political commitment. You can't really get anything done if the leaders of that country are not committed to improving the healthcare system. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones who will sign the budget for improving health system. They are the ones who will sign the budget for having inputs like drugs and supplies, improving the infrastructure of the healthcare system. And so it's also very important. It's very important when we're talking about improving the health, any healthcare system, or increasing access to nutrition, or whatever aspect of primary healthcare we're looking at. It starts from the top. It's really getting the buy-in and the commitment of the key stakeholders of the country, and then it trickles down to the regional level and then to the community level. So those are some of the things that we've seen that has worked. And for countries the where it hasn't worked so well, we also see that it's clearly there's a lack of political will, and also the lack of maybe capacity of the health system. Maybe the health system is not equipped with trained healthcare providers, or it's not equipped with, or the healthcare providers are also not, incentivized or motivated. So provider motivation is another important policy recommendation that is often overlooked, but it's a key aspect of improving the quality of services delivered in a country's primary healthcare system, or in the health system in general.
Mm-hmm. So lots of different countries, that you mentioned, and what really forth with everyone, that political will, that strong infrastructure, that
Sorry, it's breaking up a little bit, so I am struggling to hear you.
yeah, no problem. How about now?
Yes, that's better.
Yes. Yes, I was saying that the things that really came through strongly, we were talking about like the political will of a country, the infrastructure of the healthcare system, the motivation to be able to make those changes. That those definitely came through um, loud and clear. In your experience in doing public health, global health in the past, I think you said 12 years, what has been the most surprising um, thing or things that you?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Yes, what are the most surprising things you've come across in the past 12 years that you've been doing global health?
Whew, that's a good question. What has been the most surprising? Should I answer this in a good way or in a bad way? Like, what has been the most good surprise or bad surprise?
However you prefer.
Okay, great. So, as what has surprised me the most is that while as a public health professional, to me, it seems like a walk in the park to improve a country's primary healthcare system. I'm always like, oh, I mean, this is rocket. It's not rocket science. We already know what has worked in other countries. What does it take to implement it in any country? So, but what has surprised me the most is that it's not always the case. It's not like it's much bigger. It's deeper. The problem is in some countries, is deeper than just the surface level. Take this recommendation and implement it in this country. There are a lot of there are just a lot of things to uncover. So most especially, like the political leadership, it has surprised me to see that some country, as much as you think it should be commonplace for everyone to know how to improve a health system, or everyone should automatically prioritize improving the population's health. It's not always the case in many countries. Most times, while the knowledge is there, the information is there, the recommendations are outlined in a very nice policy document, it just doesn't translate, or it's not an automatic translation to action or improvement. So that I think has, been was my first shocker, that, oh, you don't go into a country expecting that, oh, everyone, the leaders should automatically, agree to your recommendations. It takes a lot of, you still have to, kind of do a lot of advocacy, and then you think why do you have to, advocate so much? He should automatically, um, understand that this is important, understand or prioritize the population's health. But there are a lot of other priorities that tend to trump the provision of healthcare access in countries.
That let's get into what are some of those other things that are trumping the provision of healthcare or acting as barriers, to those healthcare innovations.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm really privileged to share some examples, but I know that, it's just I think I'll just leave it, generalize how, countries have earmarked funds for other political ambitions, so that provide quick quick returns, and also quick evidence. So, for instance, providing the adequate access to care for chronic diseases usually takes a, it's like an investment that you might never really see the evidence until the end of a political tenure. So a political leader who comes into a role wants to invest in things that within the 4 years, or yeah, within the 4 years of his administration, or within the 4 years of the administration, you can we can show quantifiable work done. But as more as important as, non-communicable diseases, where we're losing thousands of lives to non-communicable diseases, you would think that it should take priority, right? Providing, access to NCD drugs and supplies, and also providing access to NCD screening, preventive screenings for chronic diseases. But in many countries, that's not the focus, because it takes a while to see the effect of NCD management and prevention management. So those are some of the, so I'll say some of the things that have taken over the place of other health priority topics would be, um, areas that would easily produce, quick evidence within the period of administration.
Mm, very fascinating stuff. Appreciate I asking about generalities, and not necessarily specifics of things that you had worked on. So I really appreciate that. Uh, as a 40 and 40 um, learner, has your life changed since
I didn't hear the question. The line was breaking up.
yes, as a 40 under 40 BCPH winner, has your life changed?
Oh, it's been an absolute honor, and I'm very, delighted to have been selected as one of the award recipients for the 40 under 40. Thank you, to the team at BCPH, the Boston Congress of Public Health. I would say it's been overwhelming. It has brought more light to the work that I do, both at the World Bank and with Nom Nom Babies. And so, a lot more recognitions that has come afterwards, a lot more, commendation of the work that we do. And so I would say, since the award, it's been positive recommendations, positive recognitions, and yeah, it has felt very good.
That's awesome. And so, in the next 5 years, what are some of the things that you personally would like to achieve in your public health journey, or that you would like to see materialize within the public health agenda?
Okay, so in the next 5 years, first of all, will be, of course, completing and earning my doctorate degree in public health, health policy, and leadership. And so then the following would the next other things that have come to mind would be expanding Nom Nom Babies, reaching more babies in beyond Nigeria, so in different parts of Africa. I plan to, continue conducting those outreaches in other countries where we have these challenges for underserved families. So, and another thing would be, continuing the work in international development and just keep advancing in it, to a higher, career level.
Awesome, awesome. And we wish you the best of luck, in your doctorate program.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. And as a final, where do you see the cohorts of the 40 under 40 um, going?
Where do I see?
Where do you see the evolution of the next cohorts of the 40 under 40?
Um, I'm looking forward to seeing the next cohort. I'm actually, first of all, I'm looking forward to meeting the current cohort. If there's any possibility of that happening, I think it would be great. I would, from what I've seen that a lot of them are doing very good, commendable public health work. And I, foresee some level of collaboration in the work that we all do. And I think so. For me, I think it will be very valuable to see if there's some form of collaboration work that should come out of this cohort and also for the next cohort of public health winners, especially like with people that have similar interests, that have been awarded the 40 under 40 Public Health Catalyst Award. It'll be interesting to see how the teams can, both this cohort and the next one and subsequent ones that come after it, there's a system or program in place to ensure some form of collaboration of some sort. That would be, sustainable and interesting.
Well, as I've said to all other beauties who said the same thing, that is our hope and wish to be able to bring all of you guys together as an inaugural 22 cohort and then future cohorts to come to make this a family that people continue to springboard off of each other's make in so many areas. Thank you so much to the audience. You spot.
Thank you very much.
Go to bch.org 40 under 40 about her, about public health and issues. Go to our journal, HPHR journal, formerly our public health.
Mm.